Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Practical Pet Chat here with Lorin, and myself. Thanks for joining us. We know you've got so much going on in your lives. We're all here because we care about our pets. And Lorin, you and I both had an experience recently. Little different reasoning why we were taking this approach, but we went through pet dental probably on a deeper level than most people do. And I thought it'd be really interesting to share with the folks the hows, the whys, what we did, how we did it, why we did it, and why. Yes, Bella, that smile is so beautiful. If she pops up, folks, she'll show you those beautiful white pearly chompers. Um, but Lorin, let's start with your experience because your experience different than what mine was.
No, I have little dogs. You have I actually call them make-believe dogs. They're not real dogs. Um, you have a real dog. You have a full-size dog. But to to that, little dogs are just inherently dentition challenged. They have worse dentition than bigger dogs. They're prone to more issues. They have smaller mouths, so that it's harder to get in there and brush their teeth and do those kinds of things. And they're fragile depending on how small they are. And my dogs are, 4 pounds. So really, really tiny dogs. And I knew that my 3-year-old, which is young, right? 3 years old, I could tell she was having issues in her mouth. And the problem was is that my normal vet, since I moved here, she's a holistic vet. She has been out for medical reasons for about a year and a half. And I didn't want just anybody to do that because, it's a little dog, anesthesia is an issue. And I wanted to be sure that this was that all of the potential um, issues were discussed thoroughly. And then she went on medical leave. So I was considering my options. I was trying to find somebody. I was willing to drive great distances, 3, 4 hours away to get to somebody, stay overnight, make sure she was done right, all that. Um, and I called a vet that had amazing reviews, and he was probably 4 hours from me and great staff people. And one of the staff members called me back after discussing it with the vet and said, we would be happy to see you, but there's a board certified vet dentist like an hour and a half from you, would probably be better. And I was like, oh, I had no idea they didn't pop up. And so they gave me the name and number. I called them. My normal thing is I gotta meet you first. And they said, well, since you're coming from an hour and a half away, why don't we book extra time to have the consult first, and we'll book you for the dental. And if you choose not to do it, there will be no charge. I said, perfect. So when I go, I mean, I'm going to find out all the particulars, and this particular board certified dentist also had a board certified anesthesiologist on staff. So I wanted to meet with everybody. It's very concierge service. There's 4 people assigned to your one animal. And the anesthesiologist is there the entire time. But I hit them with lots of really difficult questions, including, I mean, my first thing was, okay, most important is that she wakes up. And they said, of course. And I said, but from there, what do you do when you're in there? What are your procedures? I require dental x-rays. Well, we don't do anything without dental x-rays. Perfect. And I need to know what you're using. What do you give for anesthesia? Do you have the kitten tracheal tubes? Because these are little tiny dogs. What are you using? Is it propofol, and what else for your anesthesia? What kind of meds do you give while the kid is under? Are you giving any pain meds? Because I in particular didn't want gabapentin given to my dog. And I said, so I need to know what you do. Do you give an antibiotic while they're under? Do you flush the mouth with an antibiotic? What antibiotic do you use? And how long is the kid under? That one was difficult for me because when she said it's going to take 2 to 3 hours, I was like, because that's a long time. And she says, different here. She goes, we're the kind of place that we do cancers of the jaw and things like that. And so we're oftentimes looking at 5, 6, 7 hours, depending on what's involved. 2 to 3 hours is from the onset of getting in there with the dental x-rays, all of that's constantly monitored. And I was a little freaked out. This could not have been a better experience. Definitely got what we paid for. We paid a fortune for it. But the dog that I have today is a different dog. And for people who don't really understand the impact healthy mouths have on the behavior of the dog, my little kid stopped playing really at 6 months, and I didn't know why. And she had a lot of stomach issues, a lot of issues with vomiting or regurgitation and growly stomach and all this. And we had gotten another puppy for her to have a friend to play with. She didn't really want to play, and she didn't really play with toys very much. Couldn't get her to chew on anything. I knew there was something going on, but again, got to find the right person, right? The dog I have today plays constantly. Her tail hasn't stopped wagging since she got the dental. The stitches were dissolvable. She had to have several teeth removed because that's how bad her mouth was. And she is vibrant, healthy. She's a puppy again. She's, 3 years old. I mean, she should be running around the house doing zoomies, and she is again. She's constantly playing with toys. She's constantly doing all those things. So if you're not going to do the things that you need to do at home for whatever reason, you forget, you don't know what to do, it's too hard, the dog doesn't like it, you're not familiar, any of those things. And by the way, coconut oil works great for toothpaste. Then you need to be sure that you have their mouths checked on a regular basis to be sure that everything is handled the right way.
Yeah, I that is so much great information there. Much more thorough even than what I did, and that never surprised me because you
A
are
real dog.
well, but you're really dialed in on that. My questions. I thought I was actually putting the folks through the gauntlet asking questions, but you really got deep right on down to the depth of the medicines. So I have a real dog, but part of my concern too is she's had some vestibular issues. And so that is very concerning for me. And that's where I leaned in on the questions that I had, my concerns over anesthesia, how long is she going to be down? What are we doing to treat, pain and all the rest of that? Do we need to treat the pain?
Right.
She's a husky. She's tough. She's Chicago tough like me. I'm a rescue diver. Maybe she can grit it out. And ironically, by the way, the one that I ended up going with, we had that conversation. They were like, "Hey, listen, if we don't have to pull teeth and we're not doing some of the deep ones, we can yeah, we'll still give it to you, but we'll let you decide whether you use all of it, none of it, some of it, based on how she's reacting once you get her home." And thankfully, she didn't end up having to have any teeth removed. And but I was just concerned. I do a lot of proactive work because I know and have had dogs with some deep, issues with their teeth. And let's I'm asking all of you, don't chat GPT or Google this. Do adult dog teeth grow back? And the answer is, of course not, right? But there are a lot of myths out there that, oh well, it's okay if they lose a tooth, it'll grow back, or if you pull the tooth, it'll come back. I actually, oh my gosh, I actually had someone telling me they were going to go to the dentist, but after talking to the people at the office, it was fine because if the tooth, was rotted and fell out, another one would grow in, and I was like, that's what they told you? And they were, yeah. And I'm like, Did you tell him you have a puppy? Because maybe, okay, puppy teeth fall out and adult teeth come in, but adult teeth, like human teeth, don't. It's not a shark. You don't have a shark. Okay, you got a
Well,
dog. Yeah. Well, sometimes, like puppy, that's why the puppies have to lose those teeth. But the point on it is having those discussions also made me feel much more comfortable because the one thing I did not want to do, and this is really important in all decisions and why you've got to have the discussions that you and I have with the folks that we trust to provide care for our dogs, and beyond, is that I don't want to ever do one treatment that causes harm to because of ancillary issues. So if I had to make the decision, and we went through that, and I had that in depth, and I will say I was very fortunate. These folks got it, and they understood, not just the one that I chose, but two of the other ones in particular. I would have felt good with any of the three choices I had, in my finalist, if you will. I gave them all a rose, and I said, "Will you please?" No, but yeah, I literally was like, I don't want to have her go through this and have it trigger something deeper because I've been on that precipice before and walked away, literally walked out of the vet's office when they were telling me we need to consider,
yeah,
euthanasia. And so you really gotta talk about it. You really gotta advocate. You really have to get in there and say, make me feel comfortable because you can't explain it to my pet and have the pet feel comfortable. So you're going to have to get me to feel comfortable. Um, and we did that. And what's really interesting too, I love that you were describing she's playful. She's back to what like, that's the goal, right? And that's why we do these things. What's so funny is I have always done this thing with Belle where I'll grab her, even as she was a puppy, she used to hang from my finger with her fangs. Drives my family nuts because, only I should be putting, let's be honest, nobody should put their hands in her mouth because you don't know if those fingers will be there at the end. But she likes to hang, even now at 70 pounds, likes to hang on my fingers. And so it was like, and the way she used to do it was she just tuck her lip back up under and show me the fangs, and I'd be like, all right, come here, I'll pull on your teeth. But she wasn't doing that. What's so funny is now she'll do it. I'd be like, whoa, Belle, oh, turn those down, those are so bright, you got headlights there. And she just gets the wiggle butt from the normal I'm happy to, like, she's like, I know, aren't they look so good, Dad? And I'm like, absolutely. I will never, we don't need the reflectors at night when we walk as long as you're smiling. But I was more concerned about the deep back pockets. That's
right.
where I was struggling, and I knew it, which is what got me to be proactive. I wanted to be a little bit more proactive. Did it sooner than I thought I would, because as I'd look and I, check back there, I was like, I'm not getting what I want accomplished back there. So, and I explained that to the dentist. They were like, "How do you think?" And I love this, by the way. They These three, and again, I had six, but these three asked me, "How do you think her health is? What are you doing for her health?" And as I'd explained, they're like, "That's great. I don't, quite honestly, Rob, not a lot of my folks do that." And I'm like, "That's a shame." But I'm going to be honest, I didn't always do that. I've learned, I've evolved. But even with what I've known and evolved, I'm still concerned. And here's why I'm concerned. And they were like, "Love it. Bring her in. Let's make sure she's a candidate for all this." And
Right.
so I ended up taking her to two of them. One, this place was it was amazing. Like, they had a bed in the lobby, and I was like, that is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Until, of course, I saw Bella run over there, jump up there. They got toys and everything else. And then I see one of their people come out who eventually, oh, by the way, was the vet and was engaging Bella there. And I was like, oh man, you're good. You're good. Bella was so comfortable, so relaxed, and that's important when we talk about it. And we've talked about, vet offices and going there and all the rest of that. But I'm a big believer in the energy and that holistic. To me, I always love, you and I've talked holistic in terms and all that. That holistic, everybody's got their own meaning. For me, holistic is everything is tied in. And by the way, that's the one we ended up going to. And I just thought, like, wow, this is the right. And so I'll just put the pin in it by saying it turned out to be a great experience. I have not always had great experiences though.
Right.
And so dental, I get it, all of you. It can be very scary. There are so many things that go into it. So do the research, do the discussions, visit, read everything you can, and really be checking into, does this match with your expectations as well?
Well, and make sure that, I mean, I'm a proponent for dental x-rays. I have a really good friend of mine who's
Yeah.
hired as a vet now, and she was a holistic vet after she'd been a regular vet for a number of years, and she moved on to holistic. But she got away from that because she felt like relying on the x-rays didn't tell her what being in the mouth did. And I said, well, I get that, but they're still a tool. And I want
Exactly.
all the tools you can use. And so this particular vet that I went to, they said, what's going to happen is when we take the x-rays, we're going to come out and talk to you about what we see. I said, will I get to see the x-rays? And they said, yes. I said, perfect. And so she started to show me the x-rays, and I already knew, what side, what quadrant, all that. Um, but I could see the areas on the x-ray that she was talking about, and it made a difference. And, I mean, they sent home pain meds for her too. She didn't need it. She did really well in less than 24 hours. I mean, we went home, she ate,
Nice.
and in 24 hours she crashed out after that. But in 24 hours, you would not know at all that she'd had recent dental surgery. And she had 14 teeth removed, which is a lot
Ooh.
for a year old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could see on the x-ray, we went over every tooth. And, my big thing was I wanted her to keep her canines if she
Mhm.
could. And then, they came out and they were like, one hole, the upper left was horrendous. And I knew that, and the worst part was that she had a lot of bone loss at 3. She had a lot of bone loss, and they were concerned about that because, again, I've had vet friends that have described to me when they've had to go in to do a dental and there's been so much bone loss and the jaw breaks, you
Oh, yeah.
that involved. So they showed me all of that, and they said, I think we're okay right now, but we need to monitor it. And if you can see all that, don't be a bobblehead. Ask questions. If you can see it and you understand it and you feel good about that, don't just automatically sign up. If you don't see something on the x-ray that they're pointing out, tell them that. Tell them, I don't really see what you're talking about. Have them explain it a little more. I've seen a lot of dental x-rays, so I was comfortable with it. But it's the details of making sure that you express your feelings properly and appropriately. Don't expect them to read your mind. I'm in the position that I don't want my dogs given NSAIDs. So I expressed that. I don't want any NSAIDs. They said, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And because she had had problems with her stomach for so long, and it took me, I got it corrected finally, even before the dental, about 6 weeks before the dental, I had it figured out finally after a year and a half. Um, but I said, I don't want to disrupt that. They respected that. That's what this is about. There has to be some respect on the part of the practitioner to understand where you're coming from and to care enough about your viewpoint to adjust accordingly. And that's what, I know that's what you want. That's what I want. And, we're turning over something that's near and dear to us and trusting them. So I need to have bona fide trust. I need to, be certain that it's trust that's well founded.
I want to circle back on something that you just said. on the x-rays. One of the reasons, and I don't want to over x-ray, overexpose all that, but one thing about that is a positive is even if it doesn't show it, you now have a baseline set to refer to. And human health, pet health, etc. Having a baseline, the amount of times people, and I've gone through it myself, had no idea. Have you ever had any tests before for it? No. But those that say yes, numerous times. Did you compare any of those? Did any of your doctors compare any of those for you or your pet? Or no, I never really thought about that. And it's wild to me, but not really when you think about how often we go to different doctors for ourselves, for our pets. So, number one, get the baseline, but number two, make sure you're communicating that as part of that communication process. Hey, you know what? I went and saw, we had some x-rays. Would it be helpful to have a copy of those sent over to your office so
Don't you
that you can?
don't you have your x-rays sent to you?
Yeah, no, I do, but there's a lot of people who don't. And to be blunt, um,
You can take pictures of the x-ray on your phone.
well, I was just going to say too, now there's a lot of apps out there where you can store them digitally. And so, that's just what I do. But from the standpoint, now somebody's going to go try and hack that. So of course I do not put any of that up there. Never. But no, listen, reality is, yeah, it's much easier now to take and have that information available so that you can use that as a baseline, see what's going on year after year, or in this situation too, where it's not, I don't anticipate within the next year or two, maybe even three, going back and doing this again. I'm hoping we can buy the time with all the proactive things that I do. Um, but when we do, or if we had to, I would certainly be bringing these x-rays with as the baseline. And one of the other things too is, now we didn't have the any tooth removal, etc. But if we had, that is one of the questions I asked ahead of time. Would you be doing X-rays after, or could I bring in and are is there a discount? I want to make sure we can see the before, the after, so that it's not just well, here's what we had, but then they did a bunch of work. And so here we are many years later. Well, we don't know if that happened right after or many years later. So lots to think about there. But I love that you talk about the x-rays there. I just wanted to call that out to folks.
And a side
Having
note,
that baseline, there's value.
yeah, a side note for people too is so many people don't have their kids' test results sent to them. They don't keep copies of the vet visits. They don't know what meds were given before. They don't know what diagnoses they've had in the past. You should have everything on your kid. It's yours. You paid for it. Don't leave the office without it. Make sure you get all your blood tests sent to you. Make sure that you get any of your x-rays sent to you. And if they can't send it to you because it's on some wazoo disk that requires their machine to see it, say, great, can you pull it up? Bring your phone out and take pictures of it. And then you keep that because you may not keep that vet. What if you move? What if that vet retires, and you need another vet? There's no way to get that information. You have it because again, you need to be your kid's advocate.
Right? What if you abandon some of your best friends in California and move to Texas?
But
Oh,
then,
wait.
but then one of your best friends is moving to Texas. So there you go.
Well, there you go. One of these days. All right. Hey, folks, lots to talk about when it comes to the smiles. Hopefully, we'll put some smiles on your faces, our pets. We all, who doesn't love that little pet smile. I know, if you saw me looking down, my daughter, one of my daughters is at one of the rescues that she's at, and they've got a dog that's got this snaggletooth smile, and I ask her every time, hey, when you get there, I know she'll be super happy to see you, send me that smile. Wednesday, shout out to you. I think I've shouted her out before as well. Just an unforgettable smile. Let's keep those smiles happening for all of our pets. So important, dental health, not only for the eating, which is the obvious, But as we talk about what gets into their gums and then into their bloodstreams and all the rest of it, really give some time, give some effort to that. I know you're all doing that. If you haven't done it in a while, revisit it. Lorin, thanks for sharing all that. Great stuff. Really appreciate you. And for all of you out there, let us know what you're doing on the dental side of things. Send us a email, send us pictures, not your x-rays. Lorin might want to look at your x-rays. I'm not looking at your x-rays, folks, or your pet's x-rays either. Maybe I better clarify there, right? But you can send that to practicalpetchat@gmail.com and visit us on all the different social media networks and all the rest of that. And I want to give you guys a special thanks as well. You really are hitting us on all the different ones. It's hilarious to get some of these reports and check the data out there. So, but if you have a favorite that we're not on, let us know. I'm happy to take a look at that and why not? Let's put ourselves on every single network out there. But thank you all. Lorin, always a pleasure.
Thanks for visiting us, guys, and tuning in time after time. We appreciate you.
Take care, everybody.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.